Hey there! Welcome to Embracing New Life. If you are new, we want to thank you for picking us to listen to. We hope that you find the content informative and enjoyable. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. In today's episode, we'll be talking through the realities of therapy on a number of different levels. Here are a few takes from today's episode.
Being known in such a way is part of the healing. When I am sharing myself with you, you're learning about me, but I'm also learning about me in my sharing with you.
And yeah, the research is pretty robust around this, if I'm not mistaken, that, of all the variables they've tried to measure and why therapy is effective, the thing that always rises to the top is the therapeutic relationship between the counselor and the counselee.
One factor about that is learning to do that in the therapy process facilitates that person taking that ability into other parts of life.
So you know what time it is. Grab that beverage of choice, find a comfortable spot, or if you prefer, go for a walk or do something while you're listening. But get ready as we begin. For those that are, thinking about the possibility, maybe they've never done counseling and are thinking about therapy, what are the things that they should consider? What does therapy actually look like? Anything else you want to answer in that vein of questioning?
Oh, that's a big question. Couple thoughts. One is therapy is a relationship. It's very different than, for example, if I go to the dentist, I don't really have much of a relationship with the dentist. In fact, I don't talk while I'm there, frankly. But in therapy, it's relating with very specific goals and purposes in ways with boundaries that allow it to be safe. Mm-hmm. So in therapy, we have one person receiving help in a process from the other. The purpose is for the good of the one receiving the therapy. Mm. The therapist, the counselor, clinician, psychologist, psychiatrist, whoever it might be, that person is in a serving role, and they are in a fiduciary role. They are doing good towards the one that they're serving. So the goals and the purpose and the direction that therapy takes really is determined in this relationship for the good of the counselee.
Yeah. Yep.
As such, this is different, say, than a discipleship or even a mentoring type relationship, where the disciple or the mentor is going to be far more directive. Mm. Typically in counseling or therapies, that there's skills and approaches brought to reach the goals of the client, the counselee, whereas, say, in a discipleship, it would be to move towards the goals of the one doing the discipling.
Sure. Yeah, so it's a good distinction to have in place when you're thinking about therapy, because, I think it can be kind of thought of in those latter terms of it's going to be directed by somebody else and not necessarily by what I want to see happen in therapy. But the reverse is true. It's where the client is actually determining the direction and the goals that they have for what they want to accomplish in therapy.
And in that therapeutic relationship, the mental health professional is offering tools, offering insights, but also is doing working to understand and to know the counselee. Mm. Being known in such a way is part of the healing. Mm-hmm. When I am sharing myself with you, you're learning about me, but I'm also learning about me in my sharing with you.
Sure.
And so a lot of the healing or growth occurs in this type of interaction that's very purposeful, but doesn't seem all that technically sophisticated. But it meets the human need, and that's the goal, so that we can flourish.
Yeah, we're back to that authentic vulnerability that we were talking about.
Yes.
And the research is pretty robust around this, if I'm not mistaken that, of all the variables they've tried to measure and why therapy is effective, the thing that always rises to the top is the therapeutic relationship between the counselor and the counselee,
Yes. There are many, many different techniques. Some work better with some problems, some work better with some people and others. But the most profound variable is that relationship and the features, the qualities of that therapy relationship.
Yeah.
One factor about that is learning to do that in the therapy process facilitates that person taking that ability into other parts of life. And so, for example, we were talking earlier about the tremendous cost of the great loneliness. Learning how to be known and learning how to know another in one setting can then be brought into other settings to start to address meeting those needs in the natural world.
Do you think that do you think that any client could meet with any therapist and find a working relationship, or are there just some situations where people fit better together than others? Or, when people are thinking about the person sitting across from them, a client is thinking about the therapist that they're meeting with, is there anything that they should be on the lookout for, either positive or negative for that therapeutic relationship?
Again, that is a big question, but it's a very important one for just like every one of us is unique and different. We have different gifts, different skills, different talents, and we connect more readily with some people than with others. That's true. A gifted and skilled counselor or therapist is likely to be able to connect with a very wide range of people. Still, maybe not everybody, and nobody has expertise in all concerns that are presented.
For sure.
So that's also another limiting factor. The feature of safety is so critical to being able to be vulnerable that when you're looking at building a relationship with a counselor, do I feel safe? What helps me feel safe? How could I increase the sense of safety? So some of the things that we do to help with safety is confidentiality. There's very strict rules, laws, as well as ethical guidelines about how we manage confidentiality so that there's a safe environment to be open, vulnerable, to share deeply. Also, safety can be enhanced by things like eye contact and rate of speech, or am I interrupted, or is there a pause? Is there an environment where I feel like I can let down my guard and find that you can understand me?
Yeah.
That is so important to having a sense of safety in a counseling relationship. And if I'm in a counseling relationship and I don't feel that it's happening, I don't feel safe, I'm thinking that something's not as it ought to, bring it up to your counselor. The bringing it into your sharing, into your discussion, is part of the process that changes us. So I would really encourage you, if you don't have that sense of safety, or you think it needs to have something done, bring it to their attention. And many times that produces the growth, healing. Or sometimes we decide it would be best to work with someone else.
For those who maybe have never been in therapy before, they think of, typical healthcare, meeting their PCP, and, maybe it's a 15 to 20 minute at best time frame. What are people looking at when it comes to therapy and the length of time that they'll have with their therapist per session? Yeah,
very typically, and there's variances, but very typically we meet for somebody between maybe 45, 55 minutes. A little less than an hour. That seems, from the research, from our clinical experiences, to be enough time to establish safety in that moment and to deal with some things. But also, it's brief enough that we can contain and take from that moment and go apply, however it would be relevant. much shorter, sometimes it's hard to get started. Much longer for many people, it tends to either become unfocused or sometimes maybe even too intense for something that we need to kind of break into pieces instead of the intensity of a much longer duration.
Good. Yeah, I think most people are surprised more often than not if they've never looked into therapy and how long it actually lasts per session. I think they're surprised with the length of time that they're actually able to sit and talk with somebody in a given session. So it's good to hear. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Embracing New Life, the podcast. New episodes will be released weekly, so make sure you subscribe and set your notifications to on so you don't miss an episode. Embracing New Life is a production of New Life Resources, a Christian counseling clinic in southeast Wisconsin whose aim and goal since 1976 has been to provide high-quality professional counseling, psychological, and consulting services from within a Christian framework.